In today's video, we're talking about the art of discipline, but specifically how to be disciplined in a way that doesn't destroy yourself, where you don't feel like you're losing your sanity and your happiness in the process. The reason you struggle to be disciplined is not because you're lazy or because you suck. It's because you're looking at it all wrong, and I'm gonna help you change that. Hey friends, welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Jillz and I help women step into their power, tap into their feminine energy, and become their best self. So if that's something you want to do, you should subscribe and stick around. If you want to be successful in life, whatever that looks like for you, you need to have discipline. There's no way around it. It doesn't matter how much of a soft life girl you want to be, discipline will still be a requirement in your life. And I feel like over the past few years, I've gotten to the point where discipline feels pretty good. It feels natural and it doesn't feel like I'm just pushing myself or suffering, which is important. Nobody wants to feel like they're suffering. So let's talk about how to exit your lazy era, finally be disciplined, and start showing up for yourself. Now, the first way to have more discipline and still keep that soft life feeling is to stop seeing it as discipline. Like, even take that word out of your head if you have to, and reframe it as devotion. Devotion to yourself, devotion to your health, devotion to your standards, devotion to your habits, devotion to your life purpose, devotion to becoming your highest self, devotion to showing up as her, whoever that person is. Devotion over discipline. And I don't know about you, but to me, the feeling of having to be disciplined with yourself feels rough and heavy, like a struggle. But the feeling of being devoted to yourself, that feels light, that feels happy, that feels beautiful, that feels optimistic, that feels loving. You have to reframe it. You don't need to be disciplined. You get to be 100% lovingly devoted to yourself. Discipline kind of feels like it comes from a place of struggle, but devotion feels like it comes from a place of self-love. And true devotion to yourself means doing the things that you told yourself you were going to do. It means doing the things that you need to do, even if you don't really want to do them in the moment, because you know that your future self will feel loved for it. Let's say you really want to start exercising more and showing up to the gym. You can think about it as discipline if you want. You can drag yourself to go to the gym. You can force yourself to go. Or you can think about it as being utterly devoted to that future healthy and fit version of you. You can start loving her and showing up for her before she even exists yet. Maybe you really want to start a business. You know, sometimes starting a business can be a little bit challenging, especially because you usually have to put in all this work up front without any reward. That's usually how it works. But you show up, you put in the work, you build the business because you are 100% devoted to the version of you that gets to quit her job and work for herself and finally have the freedom to do whatever she wants. You have to reframe the way you see it and view everything you're doing as a form of devotion and self-love. When it comes to discipline, if you want to change the way it feels, you have to change the way you see it. And I promise you, if you can make this little switch in your brain, everything will feel a lot softer. Everything will feel a lot easier. Discipline will start to come naturally. Now, you also have to understand that a lack of discipline does not always just stem from laziness. I kind of want you to erase that word from your head, okay? I mean, sometimes, yes, you might be a little lazy, but a lot of times there is a deeper root cause for why you struggle with discipline. And you can try to push through the laziness, but if you never uncover and heal the root cause, then discipline will always feel like a struggle. So here's what I mean. One big reason why we might struggle to take action and procrastinate is fear. And that might sound silly, but fear can absolutely paralyze us. Being afraid of failure, afraid of not living up to our expectations, afraid of not living up to other people's expectations, afraid of how we might feel, afraid we might get hurt, afraid of having to navigate the discomfort of the unfamiliar. If you really want to start that business so you can one day quit your corporate job and you keep saying over and over again, I'm gonna do it, I need to start, I really need to start, and yet you never do. What if the problem has nothing to do with laziness or discipline? And what if it has everything to do with your fear of failing? Trying and just flat out failing? What if that's what's actually keeping you stuck? You not showing up for yourself? It's not always just because you're lazy. That laziness can be a symptom for something deeper. Laziness is just how those deeper blocks show up and manifest in your life. It's like if you have a big rash on your face, you can put all the ointments in the world on your face to help get it to calm down and to help minimize it. But if the underlying root cause of that rash is that you're allergic to bananas and you don't know it, but you keep eating bananas, you don't try to put on more ointment, you get rid of the bananas. When you address the underlying root of the issue, that deeper block, whatever's been holding you back from taking action, then that discipline is not as much of a struggle. Or maybe it's not necessarily fear that's causing you to not take action, but maybe it's overwhelm. Or maybe your body is stuck in a freeze state, which is where, like, if you've experienced trauma or hardships in the past or currently, sometimes your body can just feel stuck. And it's basically your body saying, if I could just keep us small, if I could just keep us still, then maybe we won't get hurt. What I'm saying is that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes there are deeper reasons or blocks as to why we struggle to show up for ourselves. And if you never become aware of them, if you don't allow yourself to release them, then discipline will always feel like you are just fighting against yourself. Even just the last few months of the last year, like I noticed for myself at the end of last year, I was struggling a bit with discipline and procrastination, but I know myself, and I know if that shows up in my life, there's almost always a deeper reason. And I knew exactly what it was. It wasn't brain science. It wasn't me not being disciplined or not being lazy. I was just burnt out. At the time, there was just a lot going on. My husband hurt himself and had to get surgery and kind of relearn how to walk. He's, so much better now, so it's okay. But then also at the same time, my business was growing and I was so excited about it. I wanted to take advantage of these opportunities that were presented to me. Like, I just felt a big pull towards it. I wanted to focus more on my personal stuff, but at the same time, I was needed more at home and I wanted to be there at home. And so I just did both. I didn't really let either slide, and not surprisingly, I got burnt out. And by the end of the year, I was sleeping a lot, sleeping in much later. I was not working very much. I was not very productive. I honestly barely even cooked for myself. And if people saw that, I think people would just assume that I was lazy or I was procrastinating. But I was recovering from a busy few months and honestly just like a kind of crazy year. And I was burnt out. And once I allowed myself real rest and started to get my energy back, that discipline and that showing up for myself, that came naturally. I didn't have to force it. And instead of trying to fight against what my body needed, I just leaned into it. And then after, things became easy. Burnout can be a huge reason for our lack of discipline, and it takes real maturity to be able to pull back in those moments and give yourself a break. Sometimes you missing the gym and sleeping in the morning instead is not you being lazy. Sometimes it's you being responsible. Sometimes it's you being self-aware to what you need. And for example, if you never become aware of and heal that underlying burnout, discipline will always feel like you are just forcing yourself because you're going against your body. If you do feel like you're having some sort of block, like something is interfering and preventing you from achieving your goals, then you might want to check out BetterHelp, who is kindly sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the largest online therapy platform in the world. They have over 30,000 licensed therapists on their platform, which gives you access to a wide range of expertise and support. To get started, it's really easy. All you do is fill out a questionnaire to help identify your needs or the type of therapist you're looking for, and then you'll get matched with your therapist in most cases within 48 hours or less. I think it matched me with one in like a few hours or something like that. Then your sessions can either be over a video chat, a phone call, or even just via messaging if you prefer it that way. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. You can then schedule your sessions at a time that works for you, and it's really easy to fit it into your life. In my personal experience, it's just nice to talk to someone sometimes other than my husband or my friends or my family or someone who's so closely tied to my life. Like, sometimes you need that outside resource, and BetterHelp has given me that. I also want to say that if for some reason the therapist you're first matched with doesn't feel like a good fit, you're not feeling the vibe, you can switch therapists, no questions asked, no stress. BetterHelp just makes the whole process easy. Starting therapy can be hard, but it doesn't have to be. If you think you might benefit from therapy, check out BetterHelp. You can click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/Jillz. And if you use that link, then not only does that help support the channel, but that also gives you 10% off your first month. So you can try it and see if it helps you. Now, moving on. One of the biggest mistakes you can make when it comes to discipline and even setting your goals is expecting yourself to be able to show up in the exact same way every day. First of all, as human beings, that is just unrealistic. There will be some days where you will have high energy, high motivation, things will just feel easy. And there will be days where we're just not feeling so hot, whether that's because we were tossing and turning all night, or we had a really stressful day at work, or for whatever reason, we're just feeling blah. And second, especially as women, especially if you are having a natural menstrual cycle, then we are certainly not the same person throughout the month. We know this, we feel this. We have 4 different phases in our menstrual cycle, and we are basically 4 different people throughout the month because our hormones are constantly changing throughout the month. So often we plan goals and set new habits when we're feeling energized and motivated, and we're like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym 5 days a week. I can do it. Okay, well that might feel great now, but how is that gonna feel the week before your period? Because let me tell you, I am certainly not showing up to the gym 5 days a week that week. Max 2, but that's it. I need extra sleep, more alone time, and less doing and pushing. Discipline and learning to be disciplined is not about showing up the exact same every day. It's just about showing up every day. You have to account for and anticipate changes and fluctuations to how you're feeling. That is just the human experience, and that is definitely the experience of being a woman. If you place the expectation on yourself that you will be able to show up and execute in the same way every single time, it's always gonna feel like a struggle, and you're always gonna feel like you failed eventually. Let's go back to the gym example. If you wanna be more disciplined with your physical fitness, maybe that means that you are just going to show up for yourself 5 times a week. Some days that might look like an awesome sweaty workout. Other days it might look like you dancing in your living room for 30 minutes. And maybe other days, like day 1 of your period, maybe that's you just rolling out your yoga mat in your bedroom, stretching for 20 minutes, rolling it back up and calling it a day. The biggest mistake you can make is expecting perfection of yourself every single day. That is not discipline, that is insanity, and it will drain you. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about continuity. Again, you have to reframe the way you see discipline. It's not about continuously being perfect, it's about continuously showing up for yourself, continuously being devoted to yourself in whatever way you can, whatever that looks like for you. That is what matters. Now, next tip. Your standards are everything in life. Your standards set the stage for your life. If you upgrade your standards, you will upgrade your life. There is no other way. Now, let me explain why this is so important for discipline. I want you to think about your standards in your life, your musts or your must-haves in your life, because they are a must, because they are a standard for you. You will do anything to make them happen. But what if something's a should? I should go to the gym, I should eat healthy, I should go to bed on time, I should quit smoking. Do you feel the difference in energy between your shoulds versus your musts? Whatever we believe must happen will happen. We will make it happen. We will put in the effort. We will show up. Because when something becomes a standard for us, we do not accept anything less. And not only that, but whatever becomes a standard for us in our life, it becomes a part of our identity and how we see ourselves. And when something becomes a part of our identity, it naturally shapes the way we show up and take action in the world. I talk all about this in this video up here if you want to check it out. Think about it. I should be physically fit versus I must be physically fit. The person who sees this as a must will show up consistently, at least in the best way they can, because it is a standard. They refuse to see themselves as anything but. It has become a part of their identity. If you want to be disciplined at something, it has to go from a should to a must. It has to be a standard for yourself, because the standards we set for ourselves ultimately determine the life we live. That's why this is interesting, this is important. If you feel like you grew up with less, whatever that looked like for you, less money, less loving, safe relationships, less healthy living, you're more likely to struggle with that thing as an adult. Like, for example, if you grew up in financial lack, like your family didn't have enough money to meet your needs, to feel safe, that was just something you guys always kind of struggled with, you are at least more likely to struggle with that as an adult. Why? It's not because you're not capable or you don't work hard enough or you're not disciplined or for whatever reason. It's because you became familiar with less. That became your standard. That's what you became used to. And our childhood unconsciously sets the standards that we live by as an adult, unless we decide to change it. So what are your standards for yourself? Not just who do you want to be, but who do you refuse to be? What type of person must you be in your life? What type of life must you live? What are you not willing to accept? Let me give you a quick example. So when I was growing up and in my early 20s, I did not eat very well. I didn't take care of myself very well. I didn't prioritize my health very much. And I had a few issues here and there, like some skin problems, some bloating, some heartburn, but nothing terrible. And I thought about eating healthier as something I should do, but not necessarily something that I must do. And because it was a should, it didn't really happen. I couldn't really be disciplined with myself. But when I was 24, I developed an autoimmune disorder, and it was constantly so uncomfortable. It was terrible. And basically, I refused to live like that. I had to heal my body. I refused to see any other reality. I was determined to heal my body naturally. And all of a sudden, eating healthy was no longer a should. It became a must, an absolute must. It became my new standard. Once I set this new standard for myself, all my habits instantly upgraded overnight. It wasn't that I just got better at forcing myself to eat better, or I got better at my habits. I changed my standards and the way I saw myself, and therefore I naturally showed up different. I turned my should into a must. Your standards are so intimately tied to your identity and how you show up. If you upgrade your standards, you will upgrade your life. You will follow through. You will show up, because there is no other way. We don't always meet our shoulds, but we always meet our musts because we always meet the standards we set for ourselves. Now, the last two tips are more like practical, everyday kind of things to help with discipline. And the first one, this actually really helped me a lot, is that you need to stop negotiating with yourself. Stop questioning everything and making yourself think so much. Stop thinking so much. The thing about us as human beings is that we can rationalize almost anything. Not showing up to that workout class, ordering another round of takeout instead of cooking something healthy at home, staying up way past our bedtime, drinking some alcohol even though we said we weren't going to drink this month. We can always think of reasons to do something or to not do something. But here's the thing, constantly questioning yourself, constantly trying to negotiate with yourself, that is exhausting. It's just overthinking. It's not helping you, it's hurting you. Now, I'm not someone who normally sets like strict rules for myself. I'm more about like flow. But when I was going through that health transition that I was talking about and starting to eat healthy, it was so foreign to me and different to me that I set rules for myself. Now, I don't do this anymore because I don't need it. But at the time, I set strict rules for myself around foods that I could not eat. And it was basically like gluten, dairy, processed sugar, and also soy, even though I never really ate soy anyways. Now, I eat these things in small amounts occasionally and in moderation now, but at the time I was just trying to heal my autoimmune disorder, and that's kind of like the typical autoimmune protocol, and honestly I just didn't know what else to do, so I just followed it. And some people might have seen those strict rules and be like, oh, she's so harsh, she's so hard on herself. Why doesn't she just let herself have a little bit sometimes? Like, it's not gonna kill you. Yes, it wasn't gonna kill me, and I knew that. But the constant negotiating, the constant questioning happening at every single meal, like, oh, well, maybe I should just put a little bit of cheese on this, or maybe I should just pick up a sandwich for lunch, or maybe I should have a little ice cream as dessert. Should I do this? Can I do this? There was this constant questioning going on in my head, and it was exhausting. And at the time, I didn't understand how to listen to my body like I can now. I wasn't able to have that moderation because I didn't even know what that looked like. I had to set those rules for myself so I could give myself the gift of not thinking. I just needed to tell myself how I was going to show up and follow it. And when I stopped all the questioning, all the negotiating, my life got so much easier. It felt softer. From the outside in, it might look like I was being so harsh on myself, but to me, it felt like relief. I gave myself the structure I needed at that time in my life. I just followed its directions. Now, this isn't to say that you shouldn't listen to your body or have these strict rules for yourself all the time. I would never do that because that's just too much for me. This was a temporary transition in my life. But sometimes there may be moments or phases in your life where that questioning is actually just causing you more pain. It's just creating more resistance. So in your daily life, if there's just anything that you really struggle to show up for, and you've already tried all the things that I've talked about, then maybe this is a period of your life where you need a little bit more of that guidance, where you need to step in and parent yourself a little bit and set some ground rules, not to be harsh with yourself or make things feel heavy, but to take away the constant questioning and help things feel lighter. We all have an inner child and we all have an inner parent. And in a parent-child relationship, the parent is not always trying to argue and prove their point to the child and come to a mutual agreement with the child. Sometimes the parent just parents and tells them what to do because it's what's best for them. Sometimes sometimes the parent just has to say no. And sometimes it's just easier and simpler to follow the rules than to constantly be questioning them. Now, done to an extreme and all the time, this can feel constricting and heavy. Yes, I wouldn't really recommend that. But done occasionally, when you need the support, this structure can be a gift. It's all in how you look at it. Now, the last practical tip, and something that has just helped me in my day-to-day life, is simply just cutting out distractions. Social media, your phone, even being immediately responsive to texts and calls or emails, or even things like the news sometimes. When you erase the distractions and cut out all these constant little dopamine hits and allow yourself to feel that boredom that just kind of comes naturally throughout the day, it makes it much easier to do the hard thing, because cutting out that distractions makes those hard things feel more interesting. Now, I realize the dilemma here. You still have to be disciplined enough to cut out the noise and all of the distractions. But I will say that if you just focus on cutting out the noise and erasing all of those little dopamine hits throughout the day, everything else that you're trying to do instantly becomes a whole lot easier. Everything else that you normally have to be disciplined with just feels a lot easier. So for some tips to cut out some of those distractions, I really recommend disabling basically all notifications on your phone except for texts and calls. I have no other notifications on there. I don't get any notifications for social media or anything, not even emails. I have to go in and physically check that. You can also put your phone in do not disturb mode, which is amazing. So then you are not disturbed while you are doing things and you're not distracted by those texts and calls that come in. And also another cool thing with the phone, which is something that I have done recently, is to put it in grayscale mode. So basically your phone shows up in black and white. I'll show you. And it basically just looks a lot less interesting versus when it's in color, like that. I really recommend trying out this grayscale function. It just makes it like a lot less appealing and more boring to look at. And it's also great for nighttime as well. And if you do need to check social media throughout the day, like maybe it's part of your job, for example, I do recommend checking it on the computer rather than your phone, because for some reason on the computer, it's just a lot easier to hop on, do what you need to do, and then hop off. You don't get as distracted by those incoming videos that just pop up and try to hook you. And besides that, a few other things to help cut out the distractions. I have found that just keeping a tidy home helps a ton. It's a lot easier for me to stay focused and follow through on the things that I need to do. I don't exactly know why, but that's just the way it is. And also wearing headphones and listening to background music or binaural beats in the background, that can really help you focus and can be super helpful for like deep work or creative work. When you cut out the distractions, life almost becomes a little bit boring not doing those things that you tell yourself you need to do. So you just end up doing them. Now, a final tip before you go, one of the best things you can do to be a disciplined person is to start seeing yourself and identifying as the person who does do that thing, who shows up consistently, who follows through. Behavior always falls in line with identity. Therefore, if you change your identity, you naturally change your behavior. And that is why one of the best skills that you can learn is how to shift your identity and change your self-concept. In this video, I walk you through exactly how to do it, how to shift your identity and reinvent yourself step by step in a practical way. And this is honestly one of my favorite videos I've ever made. And this is perfect for this topic. So I hope to see you there. And don't forget to check out today's sponsor, BetterHelp. My link is down below in the description box if you'd like to try it out. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.